These are the tomatoes that I had planted in the black plastic. If you remember, I put the black plastic down here to kind of do an experiment, and then I realized what I should have done was put like all of my different varieties on the black plastic and then plant different varieties not in the black plastic, because these took off. They got about 10 feet tall. These were the Roma tomatoes, Roma and Brandywine. And they did really good. They took off. They were doing really good early on. And then we've got a lot dying back. And I think because of a couple different reasons. One, we had a very, very hot summer. We had temperatures like 110 degrees, heat index, which, they were probably 100 degrees real temp. And being on the black plastic, it really radiated that up. And then we didn't get a lot of rain the past probably 30 days. And then I have had stink bugs and some kind of weird worms all over the garden, and this is what resulted from that. But the Brandywine, I liked that tomato. It was a nice, juicy tomato, and I got a lot of big ones off there. They were all about this size, pretty much. They were all pretty much that size. Of course, now it's late in the year, so we're just getting the tiny ones, kind of the leftovers. But they did really well until it got so hot. Now, I've had a couple different issues with these cattle panels. I attach these with the zip ties, like, Jessica over at Roots and Refuge, her and her husband, they do the cattle panels, and I really like the way it looks, and so I did the cattle panels, and now my ex-husband wants to do the cattle panels. But what I found was that the zip ties here, the heat was just too intense. I know they live in Arkansas, and they get a hot weather as well, but the humidity and the combination of the heat, it just took its toll on those. So next year, when I do the cattle panels, I will wire them. I can either use the little hooks for the T-posts to put the wire on, or I will just put the wire around it, like wrap it. But, so I had that disaster happen, because like these tomatoes were like 10 feet tall. And then we had 2 windstorms and a couple severe thunderstorms, and it blew these cattle panels over. Yesterday I came out here and just quickly zip tied them back up because they were like TP'd on top of each other, so I couldn't get through that last row at all. And when that happened, the tomato plants that were still standing upright bent over, and also have been having something get in here and eat them. And I have this, it's a snow fence, but I guess a small rabbit or something like that can get in here. Because that gap's probably 3 inches. And then this is what's been happening. They come in here and they find them when they're ripe, like the day that they get ripe, and they eat half of them and let them lay. They'll chew them, like there's one down in there. They'll chew them right off of the vine. It don't matter what I've done. I've like took all the bottom ones off and just left the top ones, and they'll pull the branches down. I honestly think it's a groundhog, but I don't know how small of a hole a groundhog can get in. I've got some places that are probably 4 inches, because I have I don't make you dizzy here, but I'm gonna spin you around. Like the pallets there. There's like a couple large gaps in like these 2 here. And so I guess this groundhog could probably squeeze in there, but I don't know. But as you see, the weeds have really taken over because I am very heat intolerant. And I cannot get out here usually in the month of August at all and do anything except for harvest what I have on the vine, because it's just, I have respiratory issues, I have spinal stenosis, and so therefore it starts to look pretty bad. But what I'm thinking is I'm going to do half the garden next year in the black plastic. As far as my tomatoes go, I was going to do the whole garden in black plastic, but seeing the end result, how they are really dried up and dying back, what I'm going to do is plant half and half. That way I get a jump start. The ground is warm, the tomatoes are happy, and then plant like I normally would for the rest of the tomatoes. And that way I have an early harvest and then a later harvest. At least that's my thinking. But you know how that goes. Mother Nature doesn't always cooperate. And then my poor yellow squash. I have only harvested a handful. There's lots and lots of blooms, and there's always been, you know, tons of blooms on these. But as you can tell, it's got like some kind of powdery mildew. It started on just a couple leaves, probably these ones that are mostly dead. It started on those and then just has been moving this way. This is what they're supposed to look like, this bright green. And then I got squash bug on there. But like early on, the squash wasn't getting very big. Like I'm talking maybe 6 inches, maybe. But now I'm starting to get decent sized ones, but now the plant's dying back. This is what's left of one of my eggplants. I picked the only eggplant that I got off of it today, or I actually picked it yesterday. It got, you know, about that big. It's all the bigger it got, just a little bit bigger than a goose egg. All the plants died, I imagine, because they were all planted in here. Imagine it was because the weeds choked them out. Combination of them getting too hot and pests. So the only thing that's really done well this year is the tomatoes, and everybody around me has had really bad tomato crops, so I am thrilled to have what I had off of these. And then I'll show you, since I brought up the tomatoes again, this is pretty much how the Dr. Weitsch's tomatoes grew. They're all about this size. They're this yellow tomato. They're good. They're low acid, so you'll have to add a little bit of lemon juice when you can them. Just like a teaspoon, half a teaspoon. You don't need a lot, but just enough to raise the pH a little bit, or lower the pH, I'm sorry. And then that, I think those are the beefsteaks that I had those bad seeds. And the ones that are in the back row again are the Amish paste tomatoes. I ended up not making tomato paste with those because my back has just been so bad that the extra processing time is just not worth it to me. I'd rather buy it in the small packets in the store. It's not something I use a ton of. So I figured for that little bit of tomato paste that I use, I'm just gonna to buy them. But I did make, you know, canned tomatoes with them. So, and then that's a purple Cherokee, and I did find out whatever is eating my tomatoes in the garden, they prefer these purple Cherokee tomatoes, or Cherokee purple. I'm not sure which. I sometimes get them confused. But and then the okra. If you've never seen okra, it's really a southern thing. A lot of people down south grow okra. My grandparents are from Texas, so we had a lot of okra growing up, and I grew 2 different varieties. This is a red spineless okra, and it gets these red okras on them. And then this is the emerald okra. And so far the emerald okra is doing better. It's growing taller, and I think I'll get more harvest off of this one than I will this other red spineless. I thought I would try both and see how it tastes and compare it. But as far as yield goes. And then I did discover something else. I had grown the, if you remember from my previous videos, I had the green beans grow in here. I had 4 rows of green beans grow in here. And they were here a little bit further back. They were from here all the way to the cattle panel. And my harvest wasn't very good. You know, I got quite a few. I put up about a case of green beans from these rows, but I just felt like it wasn't very good. It was a Harvester brand green bean. It was the best tasting green bean I've ever eaten. And so I went and planted a small plot back there on the other side of the tomatoes after these here were done. And I think there's like 6 of the Blue Lake green beans planted back there, and I've already gotten more off of those green bean plants, just those few, than I did off of all these. So I'm wondering if it's just the variety, if that's why people. So tell me your experience with your green beans. Like, was there a certain variety that does better for you, that is more prolific? And I'm just curious to know. The Harvester green beans, I will continue to grow those just because they are the best green bean that I've ever eaten. And it was full of flavor. And my daughter does not like green beans, and she was actually craving them after she ate them from the garden. They are that good. But then I grew on these trellises here, the Blue Lake also. Those are the green beans. And as you see, the cucumbers are done. There might be a couple on there to pick yet, but I made some pickles this year for the first time. So that's going to be tore out today. I got somebody coming to remove all the weeds and help me get this garden to where I can plant my fall garden. I was going to just not do a fall garden and let the chickens go in here, but I feel with all the problems nationwide that it's probably in my best interest to grow some more food. So I'm going to give it a go. My poor Brussels sprouts, they didn't do very good either. As you can see, there's a few on there, but they got eaten by bugs because there's obviously no tops left on them. But in the summertime, late summer, like August, my garden always looks like this. It's just overgrown with weeds because I absolutely cannot get out here. So, and then all these strawberries are going to get transplanted probably at the end of next month. I'm going to remove a flower bed and put them in the strawberries in the flower bed. So that'll give me, all this space here to grow something. Because I want to rotate my crops. I'll probably move the tomatoes over here. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it for the garden. I'll show you what I've got going on once I get the fall garden put in. I'm just going to plant some more green beans, some carrots, and some spinach. What I thought about doing with the spinach, I'm going to plant more than I can eat, but I'm going to grow it, pick it, and then dehydrate it. That way I can still make smoothies and just add some water and make like a juice or a puree or, whatever I want for a dish or something. But that's just all I've got going on so far. If I got anything else, I'll catch you later.